I say, James, that was a very good story. Very scary, although it looks like it scared someone a little too much. I didn't think my story would go that good. That must be even better than I thought. Guys, knock it off. It's not funny. This is serious. What's so serious? He looks like he got scared from James's clearly fake story. Pretty weak if you ask me. Perhaps time's catching up with him. You know, if you knew what day it was, I don't think you would be making fun. You weren't there to see it. Believe me, the reason I fear the night of what this is not because of your stupid story. It's because of a very, very real one that happened here many, many moons ago. Surely you don't mean we should tell them? I mean, they could learn from it, but still, Are you sure about this? Yeah, well, here we go. Another story that is totally made up, and it's going to cause loads of problems down the line. Remember that time you told that story about the engine in the viaduct and Percy used it to scare you? I wouldn't be surprised if this story puts us to sleep and makes you fear of your own tale. But I think we should let them try, just to have a bit of a laugh. Gordon, can you take this seriously for 5 minutes, please? This tale is not made up. We were both there to witness it, and it was disturbing, to say the least. This tale was, well, it's almost as old as the railway itself. It began when the railway was just opening up, and the line was being extended outwards towards the lake at Harwin. I was rostered to help build it, being one of the first engines on the line, along with 1020 here, who was bought to solely run the line. However, during construction there was another engine bought. However, this engine wasn't the same as us. He was rather, well, he was a strange one. He didn't have a face, so we couldn't ever speak to him. But every time we were around him, there was this mist that just accompanied him no matter where he went. It was honestly bone-chilling. He didn't have a name when he came out of the works, so we called him Smokey Joe. The reason being was because the man who built him was named Joe and, well, of what I just said. We thought it would be a suiting name for him. In the end, it probably should have been called something else, considering the engine's soon-to-be history. However, one morning, I was sat at Tidmouth after taking the local passenger train up to Knapford. It felt strange. The atmosphere returned to a kind of cold, misty, all-around terrifying atmosphere, to be fair. And then Smokey pulled in with the works train. I just assumed he was going to go straight through and head straight to the worksite, but all of a sudden he stopped and all these coppers fell out of the coach and started questioning the staff at the station. 2 of them even came over and started questioning me and the station master himself. We asked what had happened, and they didn't say much. But then they said if Neil was still in the yard. I said he was, and they went over to speak to him. Not too long later, Neil hurried over and demanded to speak with me. It was then when I was told what had actually happened. He said that the workmen that had been taken to the site early morning had vanished. Not a trace of them, apparently. Their tools were lined neatly by the tracks. Nothing was opened. The ballast trucks looked just fine. No one had touched anything. But they were just gone. According to the workmen who went to look for them, they found each of their hats on the floor, but that was it. The police believed that they were all taken, but to me it seemed weird. How could someone take an entire workforce? I said to Neil. Neil just looked at his buffers and said nothing. I decided to leave the station and go and speak to Neil outside, primarily because Smokey started making all sorts of weird noises. It felt like, well, sounded like he was burning logs in his firebox. There was just all sorts of crackling and small snapping noises that just didn't seem right to me. Besides, it was starting to get a little too creepy for me as he just sat there idling. So I decided to just puff down the line a little so me and Neil could speak privately, I suppose you could put it. As we did, Smokey puffed past with the breakdown train again, but as he came by, there was this strange aroma. I can't quite place it, but it felt like, I don't know. Smelling it just made me feel disgusted, like rotting, burning food. I don't know. It was a smell I'd never smelled before, so I didn't put much past it. He must have just been going through the mud puddles. It had been raining. But we'd soon come to find out what that smell actually was. One morning I was shunting a train for one of our local engines to take to Knapford and then take on to do the local run. As I'd finished shunting, all of a sudden, our mixed traffic engine, Eagle, raced into the yard with full speed, blaring his whistle. I was quite stunned and asked what was wrong, and he told me that this train was now to be taken to Tidmouth and was to be used for the police. I didn't get what he meant, but then he told me that they needed to get to the yard as fast as possible. So I hurried to the station with the coaches, and as I pulled up, police suddenly started scrambling on board, detectives with briefcases and things to look like they were looking for a body. They just seemed really determined and really scared. I asked the constable what was going on, and he told me that they'd found the remains of the workmen and needed to get over to the yard. It had me worried and confused. I was worried to know what had happened, but why would their remains be at the yard if they disappeared at the Harwin Lake? Honestly, it soon came to light what had happened. I hurried to the yard as fast as I could, and I pulled in, and in the corner of the yard I saw Joe idling in a siding. Police surrounding the exit. There was SWAT vans, and there was just armed people there, aiming at him. I was terrified. But as I looked straight ahead, there was the lines were just covered sheets. Sometimes there were just small boxes. I asked the constable, and he said that they'd found the bones of the workmen. But then he told me where they were found. During the cleaner's run that morning, he'd gone to clean out the firebox and coal bunker, and the remains of the workmen were in Joe's firebox. Charred remains lined the bottom of the cab. The rest of them were stored under the coal in the bunker. I was completely disgusted. On the inside of the smoke box door there was just burn marks and charred remains everywhere. They were cleaning out the ashes and it poured out like a black goo. It just didn't seem natural. I felt sick to my stomach. It felt... God. Remembering it just torments me every day. I'd never seen anything like it. We were told later by the cops that they'd been there for a few days, and that someone had used Joe's firebox as a way to get rid of the evidence. So we just We just figured that maybe someone had seen that he was faceless and took advantage of that. Whatever the case was, we felt so unnerved that the work on Harwin Lake was put on hold. And it's now being reopened, but for a long time it sat dormant because no one dared to go down that line. Us included. However, that's not where the tale ends. It's believed that if you ever doubt this story, and you don't believe it, and you just think that it's tricked by silly little engines, you'll get a visit from Joe. Nobody could say for sure, but more than a few engines have been told this story over the years, and many of them have disappeared. Examples like Dennis and Billy. No one's seen them since we told them the story. The reason we hesitate is because, well, part of me thinks that you don't believe it. Meaning Joe may soon well appear. So just listen to us. Even if you don't say it out loud, just believe us. For your own safety. Because I can't help but tell you for certain what may happen if you don't. That actually happened here? Oh my. I had heard the story, but only parts of it, and those who talk about it said never mentioned the engine, or said it was here. I'm sorry for making fun of you two. That must be really traumatizing for you to have to remember that. Well, that was, definitely a good story, you two. Well done. I'll give you that. Had me trembling.
Yeah, it definitely beats out my story. I could give you that. Well done, Thomas, and you too, 1020. Very scary indeed.
Well, I know who believes us then. What about you, Gordon? Do you believe the story and the legend of Smokey Joe? Because I hope to God that you do. Because if he does show up, none of us can help you if he decides to claim you as his next victim. Just a story. Nothing to be afraid of. It's not real. Now, I'm off to pull the express. Good night, everyone. Oh, Thomas's stupid story. Oh, it's got me kind of worried now, but just think to yourself, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing there. What is... Oh my god. No. It can't be real. It can't be. Get me out of here! Now!